Hi there, this is Andy, the Suffolk Audiophile. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be doing part 5 of my vinyl A to Z, and today we're doing M to P. Now I've got quite a bit to get through today, so I'm not going to faff about for too much. Just want to crack on with it, so let's go. Right, the first record today I bought on vinyl. This is the first time I've ever owned it on vinyl. Previously in the 80s I owned it on CD, and that was Back to the World by Curtis Mayfield. Now this is a phenomenal album. I love this album dearly. It's the only, unfortunately at the moment, it's the only Curtis Mayfield album I've got. I intend to put that or correct that at some point. I want to get Superfly. This is a first pressing. This is rather special because when I bought this, it cost me about $35 from America plus about $12 shipping. But the good thing about this was it arrived still sealed. It had never been on a turntable. It was brand new. It was dusty inside, but you could tell it had never ever been played. The record itself is in absolute immaculate condition, as is the sleeve. The sleeve suffered a bit of stiffness when I first got it. It's a gatefold, and as it had been closed for so long, when I went to open the gatefold, I couldn't open it too far because for fear of cracking the cardboard. It had been like that for so long that it was quite brittle. So yeah, but Back to the World, Curtis Mayfield, brilliant record, some great tracks on it. Obviously Back to the World, Future Shock, my favourite, Right On For The Darkness. That's sort of 7 minutes 30 seconds of absolute brilliant Curtis Mayfield. Yeah, Back to the World, brilliant record. So being a really big Beatles fan, when I started recollecting vinyl, it was obvious I was going to go back and get some of the solo albums, and the first one, along with the Plastic Ono Band from the last video, was McCartney. Now again, this is a first pressing. Got this from Discogs. I think this probably cost me around about, I don't know, 25 quid. It's in VG Plus near mint condition. It is in immaculate condition actually. Let me show you. So yeah, I mean, there's very little wear on that even. I mean, on the A side, there's very little in the way of spindle marks, to be fair. There is on the flip side, there's a few spindle marks, but very little play. This record's had very little play. Like I say, another one from Discogs, McCartney, the first one. Some of the tracks, not a lot of them, Junk, Teddy Boy, etc. They were all done at the Let It Be sessions, but they were obviously vetoed by the Beatles, and they never got used until McCartney put them on this album. Obviously this features Maybe I'm Amazed, one of his biggest tracks. Yeah, McCartney won. A good friend of mine who I lost contact with for quite a few years, but I just regained contact with him on Facebook, introduced me to this band, Modern English, back in the early 80s. He had this album when it was first brand new, when it first came out in 1982, I believe. I think it was 82, could be wrong, could be earlier than that actually. Either way, Modern English, what can I say about this band? Right, so if you like Joy Division and you like goth, Bauhaus, that sort of thing, the only way I can describe this is like it's Joy Division on steroids. This is a really good album. I've seen them live, they were really good. This particular album is their debut album on the 4AD label. This particular copy was a repress, so this isn't on the 4AD label, but there is something special about this because this was mastered and cut by Kevin Gray at Coherent. This was pressed at QRP, It's a limited edition of, I think, 500. So this has come on green vinyl, and this sounds phenomenal. Let's have a quick look at the sleeve, the jacket. Let's have a look. So yeah, so it's got 471 out of 500, so there's only 471 out of 500, but the hype sticker actually says limited to 1,000. So, you know, I tend to go with the sticker, you know, so that's what it was stamped up as. There is a black version of this as well, standard black vinyl version, that's limited to 1,000, I believe. Yeah, so obviously the green. This has gone up in price. I think I paid about 30 quid for this from Amazon of all places. You can't get it anymore. The only place you can get this is on Discogs, and I think it's going for about £70 now, this particular pressing. Yeah, if you really want to sort of broaden your horizons, you're into Joy Division, listen to Modern English, Mesh and Lace. One of my favourite albums ever is this one, Days of Future Past. I had this back in the 80s, sold it, it was a repress. When I started recollecting vinyl, I really wanted first pressing, but at that time I couldn't get hold of them, they were quite scarce. So I went out and I bought this copy. This is the Speaker's Corner. Now, I've got to give you a bit of a heads up on Days of Future Past. If you're unaware, there's two different mixes of this album. The original 67 mix from the first time it came out, but in the 70s they discovered that the master tapes were, let's say, unserviceable. They couldn't use them. So what they done was they went back to the multi-tracks and they remixed and recut a new 2-track master tape. They then pressed all subsequent pressings of the record with that new mix. Now, they tried in vain to copy the original, but they didn't get it right. When Speaker's Corner repressed this, now obviously for those who are uninitiated, Speaker's Corner are an audiophile label out of Germany. Their records are second to none. They are absolutely astounding records. They sound beautiful. The vinyl they use is top notch. It's top end stuff, it's not crap. However, when they repressed this, they were given the 78 remix. Anyway, I bought this. Sounds great, sounds absolutely brilliant. It absolutely trounces over every other sort of version of the 78 mix out there. But the problem is, it's not the 67 mix. So, later on, the Moody Blues, when I was celebrating 50 years of Days of Future Past, some bright spark discovered a high quality transfer on cassette tape. So what they were able to do was they transferred what was left of the original master tape to Pro Tools, and they flew in parts of the cassette tape onto Pro Tools, and they basically done a stitch-up job and made or recreated the 67 pressing for the 50th anniversary. And they brought this out, which was to celebrate the 50th anniversary. It comes with a poster, comes on the Deram label. It hasn't got the original catalogue number. The Speaker's Corner has got the original catalogue number. This hasn't. This is, for want of a better word, absolute shit. This record, I think if you look on a lot of the forums, the majority of them, I don't know where it was pressed, but the majority of them that come out of the pressing plant are bowl warped, bowled. So you need a record clamp to play the thing. Over that, the sound quality on this is atrocious. Now, it was never the best recorded record in history. It wasn't the best. The orchestral parts, I feel, on the original mix are excellent, but some of the mixes, the sound of the group could sound a little bit woolly sometimes. But that being said, it still sounds great, albeit a little bit woolly in parts. This is never played on my system. It's dog shit. I wouldn't even bother with it. It's awful. It sounds dreadful. It lacks any dynamics. So I then went out and bought first pressing on for sale on Discogs. When I got it, it was this. Well, it wasn't the first pressing. This is probably about a fourth pressing. The key thing with this though is it has got a 67 mix on it. Now, I wasn't so fussed with this because I only paid 20 quid for it. And it is in really good nick. It's in VG Plus near mint condition on the vinyl. The sleeve is really, really good as well. So this comes on the brown Derham label. This sounds really, really good. Really, really good. But I don't like the jacket. I don't like this because what they've done is they've zoomed in on one aspect of the cover and they just play with it. Don't like it. So me being the completist that I am, I went out and found the first pressing. Now this is a first pressing. It's got the first pressing matrix numbers. The original, there were two cover variations on the first pressings where the Moody Blues is in black. A lot of people think that's a first pressing, but no. The actual first pressings had a variation of different jackets. So this is a first pressing. You just need to look at the dead wax, look at the matrix numbers. I can't remember what they are now. Actually, I can tell you. Let me tell you. So we've got a 1W and a 2W. That's a first pressing. And again, this came in really good nick for a record from 1967. Really sounds staggering. Obviously, all my pressings of this are stereo. I do want a mono copy of it. I've yet to find one that's at the right price and at the right quality. But I will find one eventually. Yeah, Days of Future Past. Really worth checking out. If you want the best 78 mix, get the Speaker's Corner. Other than that, it's a first pressing. You've got to go for a first pressing. Leave the 50th anniversary alone. So next we're on to the early 80s and Joy Division's lead singer had committed suicide. So about 6 months later, they came back with this, or a year later they came back with this. This is Movement. This was produced by Martin Hannett. This is, I think, the Joy Division album that never was. This has got Joy Division all over it. And I think for that reason, that's why the bands don't really like it. Peter Hook has started performing it live recently and, it's really good. But this is a first pressing on the factory label. This is a Townhouse pressing. It's a first pressing. It's an excellent pressing. These are not cheap anymore. They recently reissued it. The reissue in the box set is a digital transfer. This is all analog. It's really, really worth checking out. If you like Joy Division, you'll like this. I sort of stopped collecting New Order after Low Life. I sort of got Power, Corruption and Lies, got Low Life and then lost the plot with New Order. I just couldn't get into their music after that. I think they should have stuck with Martin Hannett producing them. Although Power, Corruption and Lies is not a bad album, it lacks the sparkle that Martin Hannett brought to the table. Obviously, Peter Saville's excellent sleeve. But yeah, it's a brilliant album. First pressing, again, in excellent condition on the Townhouse label. Really sounds good, on a good system. So yeah, worth checking out. New Order, Movement. So the next record I'm going to talk about is one that I never owned on vinyl, because at this stage I was collecting CDs, and that's Nirvana, Nevermind. I remember when this came out, it was absolutely a massive explosion onto the music industry. I had this on a cassette tape at the time in my car, played it to death at the time. When I was on the market for buying it, when I started recollecting my vinyl, I bought the current reissue, which is freely available in most shops now. It's a digital transfer, it's not the analog, it's not from the analog tapes. However, this version is, and I think this is probably the last time the master tapes were used. This is the Palace pressing. This was mastered by Bernie Grumman. This is an absolutely astounding record. When I watched Mike Esposito's shootout video on this record, and he puts this only second to a first pressing. This is as close to a first pressing as you're going to get. Now, I've not heard a first pressing, so I'm taking his word on that, but in comparison to the current digital transfer remaster, this blows it out of the water. This has got so much definition on the drums. The kick drum goes through the floor. It's just a monumental album on vinyl, especially this pressing. You can tell if it's analog, it'll be pressed at Palace, which is a pressing plant in Germany. Audiophile quality, it's an astounding pressing. If you're on the market for this, it's really good. I've not heard the recent anniversary remaster. I was thinking about getting it, but I'm a little bit on the fence about it because it's got the fancy tip-on jacket, it's got the extra 7-inch single, you know. They've put all the bells and whistles out, but they could have cut it from these plates. They could have gone back to these Palace plates and cut it from analog, but they didn't for some reason. I don't know why. They should have done. I've heard on the rumour mill that the anniversary is not very good. So, you don't know. I may buy it just to complete the collection, but I'm really happy with this. So if you're on the market for Nevermind, get this version, pressed at Palace, you won't regret it. Another record that takes me back to the early 80s, and I was heavily into Newman back in those days, and I bought this Living Ornaments. Now this is a box set from his two concerts that he'd done in 1979 and 1980. The 79 concert's got Billy Currie from Ultravox on keyboards. It's really recorded well. It's a pretty good box set. You can pick this up fairly reasonably priced on Discogs. It goes for about 30-40 quid, which isn't bad for a box set. But this comes with obviously everything. So obviously you've got the sleeve, which top of the box. It comes with the merchandise sheet. Comes with the information sheet with all the tour dates on it. And the records. That's 1980. But yeah, Living Ornaments. This is a fantastic record. If you like Gary Newman, this was on my bucket list of things to buy when I started recollecting vinyl. It's like I say, you can pick it up fairly reasonably priced in used condition. I was lucky when I landed this. It cost me £25 plus shipping off eBay. It was ex-shop stock, I think. Like I say, still in the shrink, still had a price on it. I think it was about £5.99 or something like that. But yeah, Living Ornaments, Gary Newman. I'm a massive Pink Floyd fan. Those that don't know me, I have been a musician for years. I play in a Pink Floyd tribute band. I play the guitar. So obviously, when I started rebuying vinyl, at the top of my list was Pink Floyd, because when I sold my old collection, I sold a hell of a lot of Pink Floyd bootlegs, all of the discography that I had. A lot of it was first pressings or second pressings. You know, certainly all good stuff. My favourite album of theirs is Animals, so it was a no-brainer to buy this. This is the Bernie Grumman remaster, which was part of their reissue campaign a short while ago. This is a really, really good sounding record, even though it's from a digital file. I think the reason it sounds so forgiving is that Bernie Grumman had a hand in it. It's a really good package, good quality card. It just sounds really, really good. I'm still waiting for the reissue, the 5.1 reissue to come out. I haven't got a 5.1 player, but I might have to get one just for that. But either way, I'll probably buy it, even though I probably won't play it, but I'm just waiting for that to come out. But I got that, and then after that I got this one, which is the Japanese. This is, I bought this from a guy, obviously in Japan, and this arrived in near mint condition. It sounds really, really good. It does suffer the usual Japanese issue of lowered bass frequencies, so it hasn't got that bottom end that this one has. You know, the Bernie mix, Bernie mastering is better than this. This is still very listenable, but it isn't cheap. I think, I can't remember how much I paid for this, but it wasn't cheap. Was it worth paying the money for it? I'm a completist, so for me it was, but if you just want the records to listen to, get the Bernie Grumman mix. If you can't get a Bernie, if you don't want digital, you've got to seek out a first pressing, and that is actually top of my bucket list, is a first pressing of Animals. It's my favourite Floyd album, has been ever since I heard it in the early 80s. So yeah, Animals, Pink. Then we're moving on to another Pink Floyd record, which is another Bernie Grumman remaster, which is Wish You Were Here. Again, like Animals, this is a really, really good remaster. It's from digital files, but I think because Bernie had a hand in it, it sounds really dynamic and good. But funnily enough, this isn't the best pressing I've heard of this record. To get the best pressing of this, I think you've got to spend a bit more money. And to me, the one that I always play, and I won't beat around the bush, this was a recommendation from Mike at the In Groove. I discussed it with him twice via email and via chat on his live stream, and both occasions he said to me, you've got to go for the Japanese half speed. This was released in 1981. It's all analog, not digital. This was half speed mastered. This has got the super quiet Japanese vinyl. It's got all of the extras that you expect in a Japanese record. It came with everything. The record obviously is in excellent condition. Sleeve, it's got an obi, it's still in the shrink. still in the shrink, you know. It was a really good find. My wallet felt pain, I won't lie, you know. If it weren't for the fact at the time that I had come into a bit of money, I probably wouldn't be sitting here with this now. So next we move on to the last Pink Floyd record of this rundown, and this was again another recommendation from Mike's shootout video on the In-Groove, and that's the 30th anniversary of Dark Side of the Moon. I had the Bernie Grumman remix or remaster of this, then I bought this, then I gave the remaster to my son, and I just played this. This is all I've got. This was cut from the original analog master tapes. It's all analog and it sounds phenomenal. It's on my system, it sounds really, really good. It comes with everything. You've got a couple of posters. You've got an extra poster on the front, 30th anniversary poster on the front, plus the other posters inside and the stickers. You've got all that. I wish they'd used the pale blue triangle, but hey ho, never mind. But yeah, this is a really good sounding pressing. Not sure who. Doug Sachs, I think, had a hand in this, in mastering this. I feel sure it was Doug Sachs. Could be wrong. But yeah, it's all analog. If you can get hold of this in sealed condition, you'll pay over £100 for it now. When I bought this, it was still sealed. I paid about 50. I was lucky. I got in there before the prices started going up. But I won't get all the bits and pieces out. You've seen it all before, but you know, this is a great sounding record, a great sounding version of Dark Side of the Moon. We've already briefly touched on this record in my previous video. This is one that I bought in 1982, or 83, sorry. 83 or 84, I think, can't remember. But it's Pillows and Prayers. This was basically a sampler issued by Cherry Red Records, and it cost all of 99 pence, which was not much money. And I remember I was in my local shopping centre and I literally had my bus fare and a spare £1 in my pocket. And I walked in the record shop thinking, oh, I won't buy anything because I can't afford anything, I've got to get the bus home. And I saw this for 99p, and I thought, well, I don't know any of the tracks on it, but for 99p you can't go wrong, so I bought it. And this is a really good record if you can get hold of it. It's, you know, it came in VG Plus condition. It's got a lot of tracks on it, an awful lot of tracks, to the point that they had to do an awful lot to squeeze them on. So you do lose a little bit of the dynamic range. I mean, it's got 8 tracks on one side and 9 on the other. Not a horrendous amount, but you know, enough to affect the dynamics. In a previous video, I played All About You by Thomas Lear. Now, the 12-inch of that is absolutely brilliant sounding record. All About You is on this, and you can tell it lacks. The mastering choices on this weren't very good, but I think it was probably done for speed more than anything. They just got whatever copies of the tapes they could find and just whacked them on this to get it out there. I don't think there was an awful lot of attention to detail put into this. But that saying, you can pick this up for about £5, and it's really worth it. I mean, you've got on this, you've got Attila the Stockbroker. He's a comedian stroke. It's a bit like John Cooper Clarke, poet type thing. Kevin Coyne, Quentin Crisp, Joe Crow, Everything But the Girl, really early. Everything But the Girl. couple of tracks on here by then. Felt 5 or 6, Thomas Lear, as I said, Marine Girls, which is Tracy, what's her name? Tracy Thorn's band before she joined Everything But the Girl, or formed Everything But the Girl. The Misunderstood, which is a 60s psychedelic band. The Monochrome Set, the Nightingales, The Passage, obviously Tracy Thorn and Ben Watt. It's a great little compilation. Like I say, it's not audiophile by any stretch of the imagination. It doesn't profess to be. But if you can get a good quality one, a good condition one, get it. It's really, really worth. You can put it on, forget about it. It's got some weird stuff on there. It's quite eclectic in its mix of stuff. So, you know, check it out. And last, but by no means least for this week, we've got a band that I recently went to see in Cambridge, at the Junction in Cambridge, and that's the Psychedelic Furs. Again, this is a record that I bought as a repress in the 80s. A friend of mine had it on cassette in the early 80s when it first came out. I heard it in his car, went out and bought the vinyl of it after that. But by that time I'd got one of the represses. I think I got a 4th or 5th repress of it in the mid-80s. This came out in 1980. As you can see, for £3.99, special price, limited period. This is a really good album. It's their debut album. There's a lot of people, you know, I for one, I mean, I've got to do this anyway, I've got to do this. I've got to do this because when I got the album, it was so obvious what they'd done. Do you think they like the Velvet Underground? I do. I think they do like the Velvet Underground. You know, but you know, I suppose it's an homage to the Velvet Underground. But that being said, it's a great album. It's got some cracking tracks on it. Sister Europe's one of my favourites on this. Oh God, India, Flowers. Oh God, yeah. Went to see them at Cambridge. They were really good. Only 2 of the original lineup left now. You know, obviously, this Richard Butler and Tim Butler, his brother on bass guitar. But this is a really good album. This is the first pressing, as I said. It arrived in really, really good near mint condition. Reason being is that, you know, when I buy off Discogs, I'll only search near mint. I won't buy VG or VG Plus. I'll make exceptions for VG Plus, but the vinyl with me, if I buy a record off Discogs, the record has got to be near mint. I'll accept a sleeve at VG Plus, but I'll tend to not go below that, and that's how I managed to sort of get quite a high success rate on Discogs. But yeah, this is their first album. I've got their second album as well, Talk Talk. But this was on my wants list when I started recollecting vinyl. It's a cracking record. Both this and Talk Talk are great records. But yeah, Psychedelic Furs. And that, for this week, is it. Next week, we're going to be doing, probably during next week, R to T. Ah, that's interesting. Because I've got them all written down, otherwise I'll forget. Because I've planned all this. R to T next week. Tune in, hit like and subscribe, hit the bell button. Do all the usual. And come back next week and see the next instalment. Thank you very much. Cheers. Till next time.